جد حليب طيب
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، له الحمد الحسن والثناء الجميل، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له يقول الحق وهو يهدي السبيل، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. السلام عليكم. We continue inshallah ta'ala with our line of lectures in regards to walking away with some of the aspects of al-Islam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gifted us with through the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions. May Allah ta'ala be pleased with all of them. Now, as a backdrop again for the lecture, inshallah, the Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith that was collected by Imam Muslim in authority of Abu Musa al-Ash'ari radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said alayhi salatu wassalam, "An-nujumu amanatun lis-sama'," that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the stars in heaven as a sign for the safety and continuation of the heavens, the sky. Once the stars are gone, so will the heavens. فَإِذَا ذَهَبَتِ النُّجُومُ أَتَى السَّمَاءَ مَا تُوعَدُ, which is a sign of the Day of Judgment. That's it. There's no stars, there's no skies, there's no life. And he says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَأَنَا أَمَنَةٌ لِأَصْحَابِي, and I am sign of stability and safety for my companions. When I'm gone, my companions will deal with so many calamities. And he says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, as for my companions, they are sign of stability for this whole ummah. And when my companions are gone, the whole ummah is going to deal with so many tribulations that come their way. And the tribulations, they are an umbrella. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the midst of tribulations, individually, he says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, this is the operative word, and rather the acute understanding we have to have. He says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that my companions are amana li ummati. For as long as you stick to the guidance of my companions, be it individually, family, groups, whole nation, stick to their ways, you are spared from disarray in your deen. The minute you move away from them and from their guidance, blame no one but yourself. فَلَا تَلُومُونِي وَلُومُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ, because you will be dealing with such a disarray and calamities in even understanding the basics of your religion if you skew yourself, if you skid away from the guidance of the companion. And it's a very straightforward concept from the Prophet ﷺ. And with that being the case, the Prophet ﷺ had the Sahaba, they had such enthusiasm in, of course, with the belief set in place, the love they had for the Prophet ﷺ, they didn't have any hesitation running away with every single thing they run with the Prophet from him ﷺ, in such a way that not only do they come with at least the basics of fulfilling any aspects of the religion, but they take it and raise the bar so high. You will see tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala, some of the aspects in regards to how the Sahaba, not only they performed the worship of Allah ta'ala across the board, but they did it in such a manner that raises the bar so high, if you were to compare yourself to them, it's an overreach. But this is how the Sahaba understood how excelling in a religion is a key for success here and in the next, which is exactly the concept Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to see from us. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, oh, you who believe, istajibu lillahi wa lirrasuli idha da'akum lima yuhyikum. When you have an invitation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to guide you to that which will grant you life, that means without it, your life is not granted. You missed the boat. The guidance from Allah and His Messengers is the key, the secret to life. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in regards to al-amana, he said, we mentioned yesterday how with the methods that he used, we mentioned about 5-6 different methods that he used to teach the Sahaba. We mentioned a few. And we also, amongst those methods, is that he used to exemplify it, not necessarily all the time giving speeches, but he used to act it out so they learn. And as they say, lisanul hal ablagh min lisani al-maqal. See, when you act out whatever it is you want to teach, it is more effective than you saying it. Live or teach by example is far more effective, and that was the case with him alayhi salatu wasalam. That's why Abdullah bin Mas'ud, he said, rarely would the Prophet ﷺ give us lectures and lectures and lectures, but we learn from him all the time by example. As-salah was not described, but it was rather performed right before the eyes of all the Sahaba. And he says, after he did it, he says, pray as you have seen me pray. Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli. And then when he wanted to teach the Sahaba al-amana, trustworthiness, something that he is known for, alayhi salatu wasalam, and we said that the peninsula altogether, when the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam was born in that era and in that environment, it's not something common. Trustworthiness and truthfulness is not, these are not normal traits. So when you find somebody trustworthy and truthful, he is an exception. That is why, subhanAllah, Rasulullah stood out. Why? Because corruption is the name of the game. Corruption of morals, corruption of social connections, corruption all the way across. And for the Prophet ﷺ to come out as someone who holds high values all the way, he stands out immediately. Al-amana, for him ﷺ to teach it, and for the Sahaba to learn, by extension, for us to learn, as he left. See, as we said, corruption is the name of the game when it comes to the wealth of Quraysh in the community of Mecca. They do business with each other, but they are also good at swindling. They will really steal from you with your eyes open. They don't trust each other about their wealth. So who is to be trusted Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And of course, during this whole time that they were fighting him alayhi salatu wasalam venomously about al-Islam, in the evening they turn around, I have my wealth right here and I'm worried for it to get lost. Who's the best person to trust it with? I'm fighting with you during the day, but at night here, you're my deposit box. They turn their wealth to the Prophet ﷺ. So by the time the Prophet ﷺ is ready to make hijrah, leave Mecca for Medina, he had tons of wealth. Tons of wealth for the community, from the community of Medina, Mecca rather. And then he leaves Ali ibn Abi Talib for 3 days. He would stay behind the Prophet ﷺ after he left. He stays 3 days in Mecca to turn over the belongings to the original owners. When in fact, Shuf subhanallah alayhi salatu wasalam, to illustrate what he commended verbally, he says, أَدِّ الْأَمَانَةَ إِلَى مَنِ ائْتَمَنَكَ وَلَا تَخُنْ مَنْ خَانَكَ. Give the trust back to the ones who entrusted you with it, and don't swindle, don't betray those who betray you. That's not how you get even. You get even by raising the bar and being the lofty person in it. And somebody cheated you, cheat him back. This is what he deserves. What goes around comes around. No, that's not the way Allah wants you to be. That's not how the Prophet ﷺ wants you to raise the bar. Rather, somebody swindles some from you, don't turn around and be that person who wants to get even. Be the person who wants to be the big person, the lofty person, the one who is seeking the reward from Allah, the one who wants to please Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Sahaba, of course, when it comes to the dealings, they learned from him alayhi salatu wasalam socially, on a social setting. No one is immune from being either verbally or physically abused by somebody. Somewhere, somehow, you will be harassed, attacked, somehow. You will be tested. Allah is testing people by each other. لِيُذِيقَ بَعْضَكُمْ بَأْسَ بَعْضٍ. This is just a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What do you do with it? Can you run? You can't. See? If you live amongst the people, you will taste some of the bitterness of that relationship that you invest in. You will have to. So what is the solution? You can't run. You can't hide. What do? You have to face it. Head on and right through it. Not around it, right through it. And he says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in that regard, by example, during the whole period, ever since he started calling people to La ilaha illallah in Mecca, some called him crazy, insane. He is a poet, sha'ir, kahin, a magician, sahir, name him. Not only that wasn't enough. They threw rocks at him, alayhi salatu wasalam. They dumped the animal's guts over his head, alayhi salatu wasalam, while he was in sujood. What did he do? He says, Allahumma ighfir liqawmi innahum la ya'lamun. Oh Allah, forgive my people, for they do not know. They have no idea. See? The truth is hitting them in the face, yet they consider it falsehood. Subhanallah, innahum la ya'lamun. So they're, it's understandable. Who historically had given that example for us to follow? He did, alayhi salatu wasalam. That's why, subhanallah, Ibrahim ibn Adham one time was up in the street and a soldier came to him and he says, Ayn al-Amar? Where is civilization? It was in some deserted area. Ayn al-Amar? Where is civilization? He says, right there. And he pointed him towards a cemetery. This is where the real Hamar is. The real people are right there. As for that town, there's nobody in there. Dead people walking. They're just walking, but they're dead people. And then this is so the man didn't understand what Ibrahim ibn Adham is trying to get him to understand. You're safe with those in the cemetery, but not those. They will make you see the stars in the middle of the day. Huh? The soldier didn't like what he said. He thought he was mocking him. Hit him in the face, bled his nose, and then subhanallah, Ibrahim ibn Adham, subhanallah, he did something very strange. He started praying for him. He said, Allahumma ghfir lahu, Allahumma arhamhu, as if he gave him sadaqah. But listen, if you are using standards of the akhirah, your concepts are changing. Your perspectives are changing. The Prophet ﷺ says, عَجَبًا لِأَمْرِ الْمُؤْمِنِ إِنَّ أَمْرَهُ كُلُّهُ خَيْرٌ إِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ سَرَّاءَ شَكَرَ فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ وَإِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ ضَرَّاءَ صَبَرَ فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ. And that one is exclusive. وَلَيْسَ ذَلِكَ إِلَّا لِلْمُؤْمِنِ. He says the affair of a believer is amazing. Amazing, the affair of the believer. He says, should a bounty, a favor, a good thing come his way, he is grateful and thankful, and that is good for him. Good in what way? هذا ما يسميه العلماء بالقدر الخير الحلو. Inshallah, tomorrow morning we have a detailed explanation about the decree, al-qadr. And he says, عليه الصلاة والسلام, وَإِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ ضَرَّاءَ صَبَرَ فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ. Al-qadr al-khir, al-mur. But if calamity, a test, touches him, he is patient, and it is good for him. So, Ibn Adham got hit in the face. Is that good? Well, it depends. Do you want to make it good or do you want to make it bad? Huh? If you are somebody who says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, any calamity that touches you, flip it to work for you. Be patient with it. Why? Because it will expiate your sins, raise you in ranks with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, grant you more hasanat. He says, alayhi salatu wasalam, مَا مِن مُصِيبَةٍ تُصِيبُ الْمُؤْمِنِ حَتَّى الشَّوْكَةَ يُشَاكُهَا إِلَّا كَفَّرَ اللَّهُ بِهَا مِنْ خَطَايَاهُ. There is no calamity that touches the believer, even if it is a prick. See, like a needle that pricks the individual. The pain that you get out of a needle pricking you, even that one will be an expiation of the sins, with one condition. See? The catch is for you to be patient with it. Ibrahim ibn Adham, he said, Alhamdulillah, this is bitter and it is a test, but it is khayrun li. This is good for me. Now, why did he make dua for him? This is where we really need to focus on it and zero in on it. It's because if you do harm, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَا عِبَادِي إِنِّي حَرَّمْتُ الظُّلْمَ عَلَى نَفْسِي وَجَعَلْتُهُ بَيْنَكُمْ حَرَامٌ فَلَا تَظَالَمُوا. رواية تَظَالَمُوا. Allah ta'ala says, O my servants, I have made oppression, transgression, aggression, name them, wronging others, haram. I made that haram for myself. And I made it haram amongst you. Do not transgress against one another. Press one another. Wrong one another. Don't do that. Allah made it haram. The soldier punching Ibrahim bin Adham, is that good or bad? Obviously it's. And it is going to be recorded as a bad thing for him. And he says, Ibrahim bin Adham, he says, I know that is a test and it is good for me, and I ask Allah Ta'ala to accept since He granted me to be patient. So I'm looking forward for the reward. As for him, Allahumma ighfir lahu. He says, I did not want his reward to be a punishment out of this equation. So Allah forgive him. Ya salam. Wallahu yuhibbul muhsineen. This is the loftiness that Allah Ta'ala wanted us to reach. You have al-Islam, the bare minimum. You have al-Iman, a little higher, and then you have the roof right there. And that's al-Ihsan. The Sahaba always shooting for the Ihsan. We're going to see this inshallah in examples about the ibadat, the acts of worship. Abdullah ibn Abbas says, two people I can pay back immediately, but the third only Allah can pay. He says, one is someone who says Salaam alaikum. I'll pay him back immediately, in full. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So I paid him back, because that's his right. The minute somebody says Salaam alaikum, it becomes mandatory upon you to say Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Give the answer and give it in full. Give it in full. Don't be stingy even saying Wa alaikum assalam. I get a lot of tests and people just say S.A. What is S.A.? Huh? Is that you don't have enough time to say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah? And for you to answer, say Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was with the Sahaba, and then one of them came and he says Assalamu alaikum. The next one comes and he says Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And the other one says Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and he says 10, 20, 30. The Sahaba said, what is 10, 20, 30? He says the first one said Salaam alaikum, the bare minimum. He gave 10 hasanat. The second one says Salaam alaikum rahmatullah. He added another 10, that's 20. Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, that 30. You want to get the 10 or the 30? Shoot for that, for the sky. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So take your time, you want to say Assalamu alaikum, inshallah ta'ala, even while you're texting. But don't do that while you drive though. He says, وَرَجُلٌ وَسَّعَ لِي فِي الْمَجْلِسِ. When you walk into a gathering and it is crowded, somebody's coming in late, open some space for him. What is he going to say? Jazakallahu khairan. You paid him right there and then. Jazakallahu khairan. But he says, and this is where the key of loftiness again. He says, but a man who had a calamity in his life, and then he spent the whole night worrying about it, could not think of anyone to help him work it out and solve it. But he thought of me and came to me in the morning. This person I cannot pay back. Only Allah can pay him. See? Only Allah can pay him, because he, subhanallah, where did he get this understanding? Huh? It's because when it comes to helping people eased out of their hardship, has so much reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, whoever eases hardship away from somebody, Allah ta'ala will ease him out of the hardship of the day of judgment. Huh? On that land of resurrection where every little help is well needed and deserved on that moment. Pay it forward, do it now. That's why he says, الشاعر يقول إيش وإذا دعيت إلى الخير فاعلم أنها نعمة تخص بها من الرحمن. They said, if somebody comes to you and says, please, I need help with whatever it is, don't think that you're doing a favor to that individual. Huh? Instead, think that there are tons of people Allah could send that person to. But instead, He chose you, selected you, for Him to come that moment, that time, with that thought, with that problem to you. You are exclusively chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't think you're doing Him a favor. Allah is doing you a favor. Why? Because the reward that is sitting on it is far more than you could ever do to help that person. فَعْلَمْ أَنَّهَا نُعْمَةٌ. It is a bounty, a blessing, a favor bestowed upon you from Allah. Don't look at it. That's why Al-Hasan al-Basri, whenever he is approached by somebody who, a needy, he will give him money, at the same time he will be kissing his hands. He says, Jazakallah khair. Huh? You gave me a chance to earn the reward from Allah. Maybe. You're not going to make his problems go away forever. Huh? Maybe you can help him get over a hurdle. But is that it? Huh? No, forget it. يَا أَيُّهَا الْإِنسَانُ إِنَّكَ كَادِحٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ كَدْحًا فَمُلَاقِيهِ. When it comes to hardship, it is the nature of this life. You overcome one, the next one is waiting. And then you'd be jumping one and getting ready for the next. The Prophet ﷺ in a hadith that was collected by Imam al-Bukhari on the authority of Jabir ibn Abdullah, he says عليه الصلاة والسلام, رحم الله عبدا سمحا إذا باع سمحا إذا اشترى سمحا إذا اقتضى. He says, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on a person. This is in the business transactions, in the world of business dealings. He says, may Allah grant mercy to those who, when they buy from a seller, they're easy in that purchase. When they sell to a customer, they're easy in that transaction as well. Also easy when they borrow, and also easy when they pay back. This is in the world of business. Should this very simple, straightforward concept be implemented, wallahi, we will solve so many problems. So many problems in the department. Now, how is this taken and implemented by the Sahaba? The Prophet, you have in a hadith that was collected by Imam Ahmad in his Musnad, Uthman ibn Affan had a deal transaction with a man, one of the companions, to where Uthman sold him a piece of property. And they agreed on the price. The man walks to get the money and come back and get his piece of property from Uthman. The man disappears, didn't show up, not today, not tomorrow, and the next day, for a while. And Uthman came across him, and he asked him, how come you didn't show up? I have not seen you, and thought we had a deal of you wanting to purchase the land. He says, you know what happened is, after we spoke, everyone that I spoke to told me that Ghubinta. Ghabn is a beautiful term in Arabic. He says, everybody told me Ghubinta, and I'll explain what Ghubinta means. He says, they told me I got gypped. He says, is that it? He says, that's it. He says, well, wallah, you're free. It's your choice. You have your money, I have my property. And there is no hard feeling in that regard. He says, not because I'm trying to do you a favor, you do me a favor, but it's because I'm doing it as an act of worship. And this is where we have to understand that every time we take something as a guidance from the Prophet ﷺ, you don't just do it as a habit, but do it, of course, by spicing it and flavoring it with the niyyah, the good, beautiful intention as an act of worship. He says, because I heard the Prophet ﷺ, and then he mentioned the hadith, Rahimallahu abdan samhan, samhan, samhan. It's because Allah, may Allah Ta'ala grant mercy for the person who, when it's selling, buying, easy, easy, easy. You want to buy it, it's fine. You don't want to buy it, it's fine. It's equally the same thing. Easy. Ghubinta. Al-ghabn, it's a term that the Prophet ﷺ used to explain something that has to do, again, in the context with a context of business transactions. He says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in a hadith that was collected by Imam Bukhari and authority ibn Abbas, he says, نعمتان مغبون فيهما كثير من الناس. الغبن, he used the term again. مغبون فيهما كثير من الناس. الصحة والفراغ. He says, عليه الصلاة والسلام, there are two items that people use in their transactions, business transactions, but they always fall in ghabn while they do business with them. Ghabn, by definition, is when someone goes to the marketplace to purchase whatever it is. When he purchases it at a price that is higher than the market value. If the value is $10, he's paying 20, maybe twice or more. Yeah? He brings it in. Now when he sells it again for lower than what the market value is. Losing when he purchases, losing when he sells. Called ghabn. He should not do business. This person should not do business. I should find a different job. Except that in our case, we do not have a choice but to do business. Because what the Prophet ﷺ is talking about is, this is a merchandise that you and I cannot do without, which is health. It concerns our entities. See? Our health, you cannot get rid of it. It's there. So you have to use it. And he referred, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to it as if it is an item for sell, merchandise, صحة. And then he add to it faragh, reference to what? Not just the spare time, but is reference to your lifespan. Ras mal. This is your capital. You walking into a business with a capital at hand. That is your lifespan, is that capital. What do you do with it? He says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the majority of the sons of Adam, they fall in ghabn. They buy it. Way above market value, sell it below market value, losing both ways. Ghabn. And he says very few people pay attention to it. نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن لا يجعلنا وإياكم من المغبونين في الصحة والفراغ. Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi, and this is again, it has to do with an aspect of how you rush to, whenever you hear Allah or His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam addressing you, rush to say sami'na wa ata'na, we hear and obey. Don't delay it. Don't wait until you have a family conference about whether you should not do it. Immediately. It is the best course of action. Anas ibn Malik, in a hadith that was collected by Bukhari and Muslim, he says, in Medina, I was serving Abu Talha al-Ansari, Abd al-Rahman ibn Auf, and others. I was serving them alcohol. But a caller came yelling and announcing to everybody, alcohol is made haram. Abu Talha immediately said to Anas, go ahead and get rid of all of the alcohol we have. Get rid of it. All it took is just one verse. We mentioned before that in the 1930s, after the crisis, people resorted to relieve the stress, to fall in more stress. Most people, it became a social dilemma here in the United States. Alcohol was the resort for so many. They run to alcohol. So much so that, of course, alcohol comes with a slew of problems. So the government wanted to put an end to or minimize the problem with of the damage alcohol is causing to society at large. They cannot turn the economy around overnight, and it's just the whole thing is snowballing to where alcohol is just creating even more havoc. So they passed so many laws about alcohol being, forbidden, and the backlash was horrible. The reaction socially was not the prettiest thing. And casualties, damage, so much. And not to mention the money it took to run the campaign in of itself against alcohol. So it was just not a pretty sight. In 1933, they reinstated alcohol being legal again, and you can drink, no problem, with the tiny little tweaks and restrictions here and there. And we still have those restrictions as we speak nowadays in so many states, to where, for instance, on Sunday, alcohol is not allowed to be sold up until at least afternoon, after people come back from church, and then they can go get stoned, no problem after that, no problem. Huh? And then they still do it. In some states, they have a little bit of regulations. For instance, only certain stores can carry alcohol, but this is not getting rid of the problem. He's just sugarcoating it, All it took is just one statement from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alcohol is haram. Over with. That's it. Abu Talha al-Ansari did not sit there with none of the Sahaba sit there and start asking, yo, come here. What were you saying? Haram? Who are you again? And they started questioning and interrogating and finding justifications and excuses to, or at least let me just finish this sip, since I'm not going to see it forever. This is it. Since it's haram, at least let's gather. Close the doors. Let's just finish our gathering and have fun, and then we'll talk about it later. We'll figure out later. When you do business with Allah, this is the beauty of it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala touches the most beautiful thing in you, which is your heart. Huh? Ya bani Adam, qad anzalna. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, oh, sons of Adam, we have bestowed upon you libasan, clothing. This is physically a clothing. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just for the clothing in of itself, you have no idea what the clothing does. It's not just a cover for the body, but it brings about humility, brings about honor, dignity. Name them. Remove the clothing and see what will happen. Problems all the way across. Problems. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala referred us, this is what you see, the beauty that is outside. There is something better than that. وَلِبَاسُ التَّقْوَى ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ. See, the beauty Allah wants to see is the beauty of that heart. See, give that heart the most beautiful clothing. What is that clothing? At-taqwa. Piety. Mindfulness of Allah. Fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to see. Two things and I'll close, because I have the kids that it is a good or bad. Patience when it comes to being touched by a calamity, it was exemplified in a beautiful incident that happened with Abu Talha al-Ansari. Again, we're talking about Abu Talha al-Ansari and what he did with alcohol. He said to Anas, why is Anas serving him? Who is Anas to Abu Talha al-Ansari? Does anybody know? Abu Talha al-Ansari and Anas ibn Malik. Where is the relationship? That's his stepdad, stepfather. Abu Talha al-Ansari married Sulaym. When he embraced Islam, he embraced Islam through marrying Sulaym, because when he wanted to marry her, she says, I can't marry you. I'm a Muslim and you're not. And he said, well, how can I fix it? She says, well, my dowry is for you to become a Muslim. And he embraced Islam, married Sulaym. She already had her son, Anas ibn Malik. And he had an incident that happened to him with Sulaym. He's a businessman. He goes out on his trips. And then he comes once, and Sulaym, and when he left his young one sick, very sick before he left. And then he left, came back, and he asked about the baby. She said, Wallahi la yashku. See? هذا تعريض. He's not complaining, she said. Alhamdulillah, he's not complaining. And then she beautified herself. She will come to her husband, happy to see him. And then he ate, they consummated that night. And then after he was done, she told him, I have a question, I have a puzzle. And I'm trying to figure out, but I can't. Can you help me figure this out? And he says, what is it? She said, a man borrowed something from somebody else for a period of time, just to use it and give it back. Time comes for him to give it back, and he said, no, I can't. And he got so frustrated and mad, and I don't understand. Can he keep it, or does he have to give it back? And he says, well, it's no brainer. It's not his. He needs to give it back. She said, Jazakallah khair. You helped me. It was puzzling me. And she says, Allah gave you your son and he took it back. He did not know that he walked in he gave his own fatwa. He gave the fatwa to himself. Indirectly, she got him to give his own. And then he was just cornered. He could not say anything. He was very frustrated and angry. At Fajr, he goes to the Masjid to complain to the Prophet ﷺ about her. You know, she should have told me, and when I came and asked her, has the baby, she said, he's not complaining. Of course he's not complaining. Not to her anyway. And then she told me that he is, after I ate and enjoyed myself and everything, that's when she told me that my son passed already. He says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to Abu Talha al-Ansari, بارك الله لكما في غابر ليلتكما. May Allah bless you with what you consume, meaning with the intimacy that they have. May Allah bless you with an offspring that will be blessed. This is dua of the Prophet ﷺ. Rawi al-Hadith said that Allah blessed Abu Talha al-Ansari with a boy, and that boy grew up to have 10 kids. كلهم يحفظوا كتاب الله. Each and every one of them had the Quran memorized. Each one, dua, دعوة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. بارك الله لكما في غابر ليلتكما. Dua. The patience of Sulaim. Now, and I close this with a nice, beautiful note. And that is, whatever we learn and we try to implement, don't think that we are doing it just for our own sake. See, our kids, they have eyes and ears. And they learn, as we said, more from our examples than it is from our directions. Verbal directions, do, don't, do, don't. It gets old. But example is far more effective. They have eyes and ears, and they understand. Don't think, oh, it's a kid. They do understand. Example is the best way to go to teach. And teaching the kids at early age is the foundation they need to have. Don't wait until they're the one who figuring things out to themselves, and then you want to feed them, feed them. It's too late. One of the things that were patterns in the early days is that they used to have teachers that are specifically hired to do what? To teach al-akhlaq, manners. Say the memorization of Quran, but there's specific teachers that will teach people just manners. Huh? See? Italians. If you want to learn how to eat and dress, and they have schools like that, huh? Finishing school. That's what something similar to that. During the time of Al-Ma'mun, he used to have, of course, his gatherings. And one time, one of the members of his gathering brought along with him his son, a little kid. راوي الحديث يقول كان لا يتجاوز الخمس سنين. Barely 5 years old. So of course, Al-Ma'mun took interest in a kid in the gathering. So he started playing and joking and talking to him. What's your name? My name. They start talking. And then Al-Ma'mun is kind of leaning on his chair. And he shows the kid his ring. This is the king. He says, have you ever seen a ring more beautiful than this? This is a king addressing. Imagine for adults. And the king is talking to you and asking you, have you ever seen something more beautiful than my Mercedes? Or what do you say? Yes, I have. We try to be politically correct. And we don't want to offend. But the kids are just, we say, why? They're just kids. Why? Because they call it as it is. They don't sugarcoat anything. They don't know anything called politically correct. So he says, have you ever seen something more beautiful than this ring? He says, yes. His father was, this is the king. You didn't tell anybody that, yeah, I have seen something. And he says, and وَكَانَ مُتَّكِئًا فَجَلَسَ. Wow, this is big. He was leaning, and then how he sat, and he says, where? And he says, الطفل قال الأصبع الذي فيه. He says that finger wearing it is more beautiful than the actual ring. فخرج الطفل من مجلس المأمون ب100,000 ألف. He walked out with the scholarship paid in full from the gathering. Huh? Why? Quick answer, but to the point and beautifully said. How would he ever get to be that accurate and that good if it's not because of the discipline and the upbringing? No? We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the patience and the dedication to teach our kids to where they will make us proud before Allah and before His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم صلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد والحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاكم الله خير.